What the hell was that? Oh boy. Hi everyone. My name is Political Toadette 2006. I took a couple of days off to prepare for the midterms, and it is uh, currently a little over 24 hours since first polls closed. Boy, um, if you thought that these were going to be the results, people would have thought you were crazy. Yet here we are. It appears that based on everything we have seen for the midterm election results, the Democrats have overachieved and the Republicans have not. In fact, I think to put it bluntly, there was no wave. No red wave happened this election. Not even a mini wave. It's a I don't even know where to begin. Just because I'm still trying to process this, the fact that this is going how it is right now. I am on Fox News's channel's website here, just because I'm just going to use it to look at results here. But let's get into it here because this is crazy what's been going on. Let's start with governors just because there's no control over a nationwide thing. But this is currently the kind of universal governor map. And there are some interesting results here. One of the biggest things that will be taken away from this midterm is that despite the fact that President Biden is not popular, his popularity is only like 42 or 43%. He did not get crushed in this midterm. With all of the, with the way midterms go, the Republicans should have hammered the Democrats. Governors could have been that same way. I mean, we do Massachusetts and Maryland, we're going to flip, but think about some of these races here. Think about a Pennsylvania, where Josh Shapiro is currently up by nearly 14 points, which is, I mean, we knew he was going to win by double digits, it was expected, but that's a big margin in the state of Pennsylvania. Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer looks like she's going to win by double digits. I didn't expect that, to be honest. I figured she'd win, but I didn't think she'd win by that much. New Mexico, that's about kind of what we expected, but what else? Well, you had the expected victories, but in a couple close ones, like Kansas, Laura Kelly won. I think everyone just kind of, as I mentioned in my previous video talking about the governor elections, everyone assumed Laura Kelly was probably going to lose, being in a red state, now not against Chris Kobach, and Kansas, of course, had been run by Sam Brownback, which had been terrible for the state, and Laura Kelly kind of came in a blue wave year. What was supposed to be a red wave year, Laura Kelly is going to win by 1.5 points, by just over 15,000 votes. In Wisconsin, Tony Evers is up by 3.5 points on Tim Michels. That's a big deal, considering that I thought that race would be closer. Everything was saying at the end that Michels would win. Evers is going to win this race. That's a big deal, because Michels was backed by Trump. A lot of these Trump candidates as well. Lee Zeldin, this race was closer than I originally thought, but Lee Zeldin failed to defeat Hochul in the New York governor race. Not great in that regard. The only real Trump candidate on the governor list who did really well was Ron DeSantis, who won by almost 20 points, which I'm not surprised he won. I think all of us knew he would, but the fact that he won by 20 is a telling sign, potentially, for things. So there's 4 governor races that haven't been called yet. Alaska's won, but I mean, Mike Dunleavy's over 50%, so he might avoid the runoff situation there. We'll see. But Oregon, it looks like Kotek is ahead of Drazen at the moment. Lombardo is ahead of Sisolak at the moment. In Nevada, it looks like most of the votes remaining, I think, are out of Washoe County, so we'll see about that. And then Arizona, where it's very close in the governor race between Hobbs and Lake. I think it's within a point. It's about 0.2% right now in favor of Hobbs. We'll see how that goes. But, right, Carrie Lake's another prime example, Trump-backed candidate. Look, she very well might win this race, but she's behind right now, and I think the biggest county still outstanding is Maricopa, and that determines the whole state, of course. So a pattern is being seen here in governor races where, with the exception really of Florida, in most of these other competitive, quote unquote, competitive races, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, I'm not sure about Kansas if there was a full endorsement behind Derek Schmidt, but regardless, these main Rust Belt states, the three that Trump flipped in 2016, shocked the world. Well, they have elected Democratic governors, Michigan and Pennsylvania, big ways, and Wisconsin is significant too when you look to the Senate. It's currently 49-48 in the Senate. Republicans are at 49, Democrats are at 48. The Republicans, technically Alaska hasn't been called, but it's going to be either Shabaka or Murkowski who wins. The two of them might go to a runoff, but regardless, Alaska will stay in Republican hands regardless of who wins between those two. So really 3 races are left. You have Arizona with Mark Kelly, Blake Masters, still uncalled at this point. And it looks like almost every major county has reported. Maricopa, well, it says 0%, but there's obviously more than 0% in. But Maricopa's the whole state. If Mark Kelly holds that lead there, Mark Kelly's going to win Arizona. He's currently up by 5 points exactly right now over Blake Masters, which is much better right now than Katie Hobbs. You have Nevada, where Adam Laxalt is currently still ahead. Now, we're still waiting on a couple small counties, Nye and Lincoln County, but Clark County is almost pretty much completely in. All these counties, of course, red for Laxalt. And Washoe County, Reno, which I think still has some more to go. There were a lot of snow that was in Reno, and so it was there was some question marks of what they were going to do about that. Weather in Nevada was pretty rough yesterday, which is rare considering that's normally the state that rain and at least, rain doesn't hit in the south. In the north, they get a lot of snow, but this early, a little surprising. What else happened, though? Well, a couple close ones got called earlier. Wisconsin got called. This is one of the few instances of ticket splitting in a notable way where Ron Johnson has won. Mandela Barnes has made it a race, though. He lost by a point, and that's a surprise. I didn't think this race was going to be separated by 1 point. I mean, Milwaukee, Dane did really well, did Barnes in those areas, but Johnson held enough outside of that to win. So that was very close, though. But other than that, what other candidates that were endorsed and looked to be potential upset specialists, how did it go? Well, in Washington, this race wasn't even close. Patty Murray is up by 13 points now. Is that margin going to last? Don't know yet, but she won comfortably. There were polls thinking that she was only going to win by like 2. Joe O'Dea in Colorado made it a race. He made it a little bit of a race, but in the end, Michael Bennet won pretty handily. Won by 12 points. Now, still some more to come in, but Bennett's going to win that race. New Hampshire, you got Don Bolduc, who made that last-minute come-from-behind chance to knock off Maggie Hassan. Not going to happen. Hassan's up by 9, and that might shrink a little, but it's going to be about that range. And the big one, of course, is Pennsylvania. The fact that John Fetterman is outperforming Joe Biden is significant. This is a 3.5 point difference right now in the state of Pennsylvania, and it looks like it's going to expand, potentially with a little more out of Philadelphia County, maybe a couple more here in Philadelphia suburbs. Lackawanna still got a little bit. Not much really is left here in Pennsylvania, so this 3.5 point lead might stay, but all the polls were showing that Dr. Oz had momentum. Didn't happen. Pennsylvania is the only flip in the Senate at this point. We're just missing Arizona, Nevada. Alaska's going to go Republican. Just don't know which Republican will win. And finally, there's Georgia. Georgia's going to a runoff. We know this. It'll be a Warnock-Walker. And so we're going to have to wait till December 6th, potentially, to find out what happens in the Senate. I mean, if Kelly holds in Arizona and Catherine Cortez Masto flips Nevada, Senate control is in Democratic hands, regardless of this Georgia runoff. This Georgia runoff essentially just becomes I don't know. It really doesn't. It doesn't have a grand scheme of things for overall control of the Senate, really at all. But that's a big deal that a lot of these other Trump-backed candidates all lost. The only one that won was J.D. Vance. He won in Ohio. This looks pretty similar to the 2020 map. A couple, Cuyahoga, Franklin, Hamilton, Athens. Yeah, I mean, this was pretty similar to that. I mean, Vance is currently up by 6.5 points. Or maybe actually, is it? Wait, do math. 6.5 points. So I don't think that's really a surprise. But in all these other states, none of the none of the Republican candidates are going to win, and that's a big deal. We'll have to wait and see what happens in Georgia. I don't think it surprises too many people went to a runoff. We'll see what happens though. And I'm curious about the 1 to 2% that voted for Chase Oliver, the Libertarian. How will they vote in the runoff potentially? Because you assume almost everybody who voted for Warnock will vote for him again. Almost everyone who voted for Walker will vote for him again. So what about that 2 to 3% of the Libertarian vote that basically forced this race into a runoff? And then after the Senate here, then there's the House. This is unbelievable what happened here. Right now, this says 207, 184. These numbers are kind of all over the place. It looks like there's more Democratic victories, primarily in California, where we just don't have calls yet. Probably just being safe, which is fine. We can be nice and, we can be cautious here. But there were some big upsets in the House yesterday. Take, for example, Ohio's 1st congressional district. Steve Chabot, who I think Bill Hemmer on Fox News kind of talked about, he's like this snake who just always finds a way to get out and win. Well, Steve Chabot did not win. He has lost in his district. Also, this 13th district, Sykes wins. This was a surprise. As you probably guess, based on some of the races, the House races, currently right now, my Senate and governor predictions, depending on results, still waiting in Nevada and Arizona, Georgia, Oregon, states like that. I've so far gotten those right with, some were close, others weren't. The House, while for the most part has also been correct to what I had originally predicted, hasn't entirely either. Take this close one here. Molinaro beat Riley in New York 19. Texas 34 went to Gonzales, and Texas 15 went to De La Cruz. I mixed those two up. I had Texas 15 as blue and 34 as red, so those two just switched. But you have a couple other things here. Maryland 6 is still pretty close right now. Parrott is ahead at the moment. We'll see if that lasts. How about Sean Maloney losing? That was a big deal in a close race there. New Mexico 2. Vasquez is leading just ever so slightly at the moment. That's a big deal considering that district flipped to Republicans 2 years ago. Now it might flip back to the Democrats. Still waiting on the Nevada races. Still got this one in Illinois. Still got a couple up here in New York, Montana. Got these in Oregon and Washington, a lot in California, of course, some in Arizona. The Alaska race where Peltola's ahead, but again, she's got to get over 50%. Right now, she's not doing that. We'll see, though, in Alaska. They're still counting. Got this one race in Colorado. That's still very, very close. And then this is the upset, potentially. If it happens, this is the upset of the election. Frisch against Boebert. Let me just pull this up here real quick. They're not updating, but you can see just real quick. Ohio 13, likely? Nope. Ohio 1st, likely? Nope. New Mexico 2nd was likely? Not happening. Colorado, which race was it? Is that Colorado? Is it Colorado 8? That's really, really close, or Colorado? It is Colorado 8. And likely Republican? Nope, it's not right now. Let's see. I think everything else, well, there's ones here and there, all crazy wrong. But also Pennsylvania, a ton of the districts of Pennsylvania, they all went blue. Let's see. Yeah, Zimmerman lost. New York 3 was a big deal. Yeah, Maloney lost, which was a big deal. I think did they call Pat Ryan? They may have. Oh, no, they have not. Okay, this has not. That race is still really close, though. We'll have to see. Rhode Island 2 didn't go for the Republicans in the end. This North Carolina 13 race went to the Democrats and upset there. Let's see, where else? Where am I going now here? I'm going here. This is Colorado 3. This is the western part. Lauren Boebert is one of the most extreme, loud-talking Republicans on the right. She was given a district that, redistricting happened, and she was given a district that was way more favorable to her than in 2018 or 2020. And she had a 97% chance here, clearly favored against Adam Frisch. Right now, at this moment, Lauren Boebert is down to Frisch by, if my math is correct, 64 votes. If Frisch holds on, and that's a big if, considering how close it is, this will be the upset of the entire election, and to prove that there was no red wave, that a major loud voice on the right in Boebert, who has also been, a lot of people have criticized her for being so outspoken on her views. If she goes down, that's a big deal. That clearly, while the American people don't like the current Democratic administration, I don't think the people, at least based on what this is telling me, they don't want the Trump agenda back in. The Biden agenda is unpopular, but they are not going to put people who have been majorly supportive of Donald Trump, who were majorly backed by Donald Trump, they're not putting them in. We've seen that in the governors and the Senate. Now, and in the House, clearly, it looks like, it looks like Republicans are still going to win the House. But the fact that they're not, the fact that they haven't flipped at least probably 20 seats, or at this point, they haven't won House majority yet, is amazing. The fact that you still have this 22nd race that's uncalled, that was supposed to go red a long time ago. Very well still might. Republican Williams is leading, but that's a big deal. We still have 44 uncalled races, I think. This is right. It looks to me that this midterm is not in support of Democrats. Let me be clear on that. The Democratic Party is not. They have to realize this was like, okay, this is a referendum against our opponents, but this is not in support of us. They have to basically come out and say that. Because I think most people are voting in this weren't voting for the Democrats because they approve of them. They're voting for the Democrats because they don't like the Republicans across the aisle. And this seems to be a referendum or a repudiation of the MAGA wing of the party, which is that's a big deal, considering it seems like Trump still seems to have his, he still seems to have his hands on this Republican Party. And the fact that in this year, they have not yet won control of the House is stunning. And the fact that they haven't, the Senate's going about as I thought, but again, it's a surprise a little bit that Ron Johnson only is going to win by a point, if even that. It's a little surprising in North Carolina, I forgot to mention. Ted Budd won, which isn't really a surprise, but not Val Demings, she's in Florida. Sherry Beasley made it a closer race than anybody expected. And most of these other races, no real surprises per se, but still kind of a big deal. And so, look, I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple days. We obviously have some big races coming in. So I'm probably going to let this go for a couple days. I'm going to let most of the results come in and figure out, maybe here in the next few days, release a video, potentially going over Georgia runoff, and potentially also discussing what the future could be, or not the future of how the House could maybe govern, considering it is still going to be just as divided as it has been the last 2 years. Wow. All right. Well, I thank you guys for watching this video. This has been a crazy 24 hours, and hopefully it can get resolved peacefully and, make sure it is fair. I don't want any, insanity. I don't want any, I want this to be counted free and fair no matter who wins. Because that's the most important part, is to make sure every victory is legitimate. And it looks like, from what we're hearing, they are all legitimate, and it hopefully will stay that way going into the coming days. Okay, that will do it for this video. I probably am going to make something going over this a few days from now. I also think I'm going to start a potential new series of kind of, history type videos discussing past politics in America. And so if you're interested in those, you can go ahead and subscribe if you want to listen to those. You can like this video and comment. Until I see you guys again, make sure you guys have an awesome day. Bye, everyone.